My name is Amanda Bolchavin. I work at the Lane Community Technology Center in Hamilton, Ohio. Welcome to part 3 of the Light Up Your Life series. In this series, we'll create our very own custom light up acrylic sign completely from scratch. In the first video, I showed you how to wire and program the lights. In the second video, I walked you through the process of designing a 3D printed base to hold your electronics and support your sign. Finally, in this video, which is the last video in this series, I'll teach you how to design, cut, and etch the laser cut acrylic sign. That means now is a really good time to subscribe to our channel to make sure that you don't miss the other parts of the project. If this project looks familiar to you, that's because I did a brief overview of this project last year. This video series breaks each part of that project down into its constituent parts. This might also look familiar if you watched our previous video about how to light up a 3D printed snowman base. We used the same components, except this time we're only using one NeoPixel. It's a good reminder that these skills and components are transferable to different projects. It is entirely possible that you might want to include text on your light up sign. You may even want to utilize a special or unique font. So go ahead and choose your font style now. If you already have a special font installed on your computer, that's great. If not, you may want to spend time browsing the internet for a font that fits your project. Defont.com is one of the many popular font download sites available online. I downloaded my fonts from this site. If you're going to use this site, make sure that you type the correct URL in your browser's address bar, and make sure not to click on any of the ads located in some parts of the page. So you're going to want to download and install any fonts now ahead of time so that they will be available for later use. Fonts are installed on the computer itself. That means that if you share your file with someone else or move to a different machine, you'll have to re-download and reinstall any custom fonts before you can proceed. So let me show you what that looks like. This is actually not the font that I'm going to use in my project, but I've already installed that. So I'm going to download this one and show you, okay? So I'm going to click download, that's right here. And it's just going to go into my downloads folder. Okay, so you can see right now, this is my downloads folder. I only have one thing in it, and it's this font. So if I double click it, it's going to give me the license information for it. And some of them you'll also have an illustration. So this is a PNG. It might be a JPEG as well. And then you're going to see open type font and a true type font. They're actually the same font. You just pick one of them, okay? I'm going to pick open. So I'm going to double click that. And that's going to open up this little install screen here. So I'm just going to click install font. And there you go. Now you can see that it has installed that font. Now, whenever I open up a program that has a font in it, like Word or Inkscape, which is what we're going to be using, this font will be there and available. Crucially, it is only available on this computer. If I change to a different computer, it won't be available. I will have to re-download it. It is entirely possible that you may also want to incorporate some popular characters or stylized images into your sign, but that you are not an artist yourself. As with fonts, the internet is full of images that you can download. I like a site called Creatzilla because they offer a lot of public domain silhouettes and clip art on their site. For laser cutting and etching, you really want bold, simple designs with very clear, smooth lines and edges. That makes it easier for our laser to follow. That is advice that people don't like to follow. A lot of people, I will give them this advice and then they will choose a complex image anyway, and then they will be upset when the quality isn't exactly what they want, or when it takes a lot of work and testing to get their settings right when they go to laser etch and laser cut. Glowforge, that's the laser cutter that we're using today, have posted to their website steps for prepping a photo engrave image in Photoshop and also in GIMP. GIMP is a free raster graphics editing software that is a lot like Photoshop, but it's open source and it's not quite as robust as Photoshop. But it is free. You can download that onto your computer and use that if you don't have access to Photoshop. So if you look here, here are the steps for preparing a photo to be engraved in GIMP. It generally involves turning it black and white, optimizing the exposure, changing the threshold, sharpening, blurring, and so forth. And then they have a similar guide for Photoshop, and you'll see that the steps are pretty much the same. If you're using a more complicated image, a more detailed image, you're going to want to go through these steps in another program before you bring your image into Inkscape. And I will post both of these resources in the description in case you want to do that, but that is beyond the scope of this video. And if you want to use GIMP because you don't have access to Photoshop, here is the website for that. It's gimp.org. Make sure you go to .org, okay? And this is what you're looking for. It's an image manipulation program. And just like other programs here, there's going to be a download, and then you are going to download whatever is the appropriate version for your operating system. You can find those up here. It takes a lot more prep work and a lot more testing to get your settings right, and therefore a lot more material when you're working with more complex images. So for best results, simpler is always better, okay? So let me show you how this works. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're at the right website, creazilla.com, creazilla.com, okay? And then you want to use this internal search bar here to search for whatever it is that will work for your sign. I'm not going to have an image in my sign today, but let's pretend I wanted to do Star Wars. So I would type that in right there, hit enter, and now it's going to take me to everything on Creazilla that is related to Star Wars. So let's say I wanted this one right here. So I would just click on it, and sometimes up here, this little ad, sometimes that's going to look like a download button. Never click on that. Just like with all other websites, make sure you're not clicking any ads. You can see here that it is licensed under a public domain license. It's free for personal and commercial use, and no attribution is required. You always want to check on that so that you're not using someone else's art against their will, okay? So you're going to click this download button here, and you're going to choose the smallest PNG file available. We have this SVG file available, but that's not the one I want you to use. I want you to use the PNG file. Ultimately, we'll be working with vector graphics, that's the SVG format, but for our purposes today, it will be easier to convert the PNG file than to download the SVG file. So choose 2 or 3 images that you might want to incorporate into your sign, and then download those now. Just like that. We're going to be using software called Inkscape. It's free vector graphic software available from inkscape.org. The website looks like this, and you're going to click on download here, and current version, and then whichever operating system you have, you're going to click on that one, download it, and install it. So when you open up Inkscape for the first time, there may be a few windows, one that says thank you, for one that asks you to donate, that sort of thing. Go ahead and click through those until you get to your document. It's going to look like this. Now, for those of you who are not aware, there was recently an update to Inkscape, so you might want to download the update and then go ahead and open it. So if it looks a little different from what you're used to, that's because I recently updated to the newest version. For me, what I'm going to do is I've already worked on this, so I'm going to go ahead and open it. But what I want you to do is do File, and we're going to do Save As, and then you're going to save this wherever you want to. So I would probably save it under Documents, and name it whatever you want. I would probably call this Sign. You want to keep that .svg though, okay? Alright, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my old project because I've already worked on it, and I'm going to use this as an example, but yours will be blank. Okay, so once you have your file open and saved, let's go ahead and do a little walkthrough of your options here. So along this side, we have all of our drawing or our creation tools. So there's our text tool there, we're going to use that one. There's our rectangle tool, we're going to use that one. Up at the top, you have different options. So when objects are selected, you'll have different options available up here depending on what they are. And then over here on the side, we have all of our tools. These give us options as well. We might use layers. We're definitely going to use align and distribute. You might use document properties. Another one that gets used a lot is the fill and stroke tool. That's right here. It looks kind of like a paintbrush. And whenever you click on any of these, it's going to open up a panel here. It's going to give you more options, okay? And then down here at the bottom, we have our color strip here. You can choose colors. We also have our zoom and our rotation. As I already mentioned, I don't want an image in my sign. Mine, I just want it to be text. However, if you did want an image, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the process of how to do that. I told you to download the PNG file. That's a special kind of file that has a transparent background. So we're going to go up here to Inkscape. We're going to go to File and Import. And then we're going to go here to Downloads, and we're going to download the PNG file. We're going to choose Smooth. Let me zoom out a little. And you see how it has all of that gray in it? That kind of off-white color? We don't want that because the Glowforge is going to try to engrave it. So to fix that, we're going to go to Path and Trace Bitmap. I'm going to choose a brightness cutoff. And then we're going to update our preview and see what that looks like. You want to have it as dark with as much detail as you can. So I'm going to raise this. See how at 0.9 it turns black? That's too much. So it looks like the magic number here for all these clean, bold lines is going to be 0.87. Yours might be different, okay? You want to adjust this brightness threshold according to your image. And then update the preview and hit apply. Now when you do that, you might not see your image immediately because it is on top of your old one. So you're going to grab it and move it. So now here's your old one, here's your new one. And you can see it's transparent, you can see through it. And it's only these lines that are going to be engraved. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to do one last thing with this image. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to do Path, Object to Path. If I don't do that, the Glowforge won't pick up on it. So you have to turn it into a path. So that is how you prepare an image for engraving. Now, what if you accidentally downloaded the SVG file? I'm going to show you why that won't work. If I ungroup this so that I can get rid of all of these little pieces, it's just going to be extremely tedious to get rid of all the pieces that I don't want it to engrave, but keep all these little pieces that I do want it to engrave. So that's why I recommend doing it the other way and just downloading the PNG and converting that. If you're enjoying this video and you want more like it, don't forget to like and subscribe, or even leave a comment. I try to answer all questions in a timely manner. You can also give us a shout out on Facebook. It helps us spread the word about all the cool resources and services we offer. Okay, so let's start by making the sign. In our last video, we chose the dimensions of the sign. We need to use those same dimensions now so that our sign will fit into our base. So for mine, I think I did a 4 by 3.5 inch sign with a tab that was about 2.5 inches wide and some kind of weird number, like 0.355 inches tall. So to do that, I'm going to click on our rectangle tool here, and then I'm just going to click anywhere in my design, and I'm going to make a rectangle that's roughly the right size. And then I'm going to choose my selection tool right there. And I have these different special options. So I'm going to make sure that I have this set to inches because I did my original measurements in inches. And now I'm going to change this to, what did I say? 4 and 3.5. There we go. Now you want to have your fill and stroke menu up. Remember that's this icon right here. You want to have that up. You want to have the fill set here to this square here that's a flat color. Doesn't matter what color you choose, but you want it to be set to a flat color, okay? And under stroke, you want to hit this X. You don't want a stroke. A stroke is an outline, okay? You don't want that. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to make our little tab here. So we're going to pull this down. And I think I said 2.5 by 0.355. So let's do 2.5 here and 0.355 here. And now we're going to align. So another menu we want to pull up is our alignment menu. You can find it with these little bars here, or you can click on this arrow and find it that way, okay? So I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to click on this. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click on this one. And then I'm going to select relative to the biggest object, and I'm going to center that up on the vertical axis. See that? I'm going to hit that button right there. And that centers these two up. So now what I'm going to do, hold down Shift, click and select both of these. My selection tool is still selected here. And I'm going to go to Path and Union. So now that I have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Fill and Stroke tool. That's right here. Under Fill, I'm going to hit the X. That is going to make it disappear. It's still there. You can see it's still selected. We just haven't told it how to color it in yet. We're going to do that now. We're going to hit Stroke. This is Stroke Paint tab. We're going to hit Flat Color. And then we're going to change this. I usually like to do red at 255 on our color wheel. I think I usually do RGB. I'm going to do red 255 for a cut line. And then under stroke style, I usually choose point. That's PT there. And I choose 1 point. And that's going to give our laser a nice clean line to follow. You You can already see it kind of forming, can't you? Okay, so now we are going to worry about our text. You can see from my design, I kind of cheated. I used a special font that had like a decorative border, and I just kind of made that bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose our text tool, click anywhere in our design, choose the text that you want. In my case, it was just a B. Your sign will probably be completely different. Now that I have the text I want, I'm going to choose my font. Now remember, you should already have downloaded and installed your font, so it should be here in this font list. Mine was Capitalissimo, I think. So I'm going to click that, start typing. There it was. I think it was Capitalissimo 8 was mine. Yeah. And then you can choose your font size. I think mine was really, really large. Yeah, that looks about right. Alright, so let's move this over and see what it looks like. I can probably get it a little bigger, to be honest. Again, click my text tool, double click it to highlight it. Let's see if I can get it up to 410 maybe as a font size. I can maybe go bigger. Alright, that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is, I have the font I want, I have it, it's not quite as big as I want it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it from an object into a path. So I'm going to go up here where it says path, I'm going to choose object path. If you don't do that step, the Glowforge will not recognize your text. It won't be able to follow the path, and it won't be able to etch or engrave it. So whenever you're working with text, once you have it kind of finalized, select it, and then choose Path, Object, Path. Now that we've done that, we can make it a little bigger, stretch it a little so that it's going to fit inside our design. I'm going to select both of these just by dragging there, choose my alignment tool, and I'm just going to center it to the biggest object. There we go. So now it fits nice and neat inside there. Okay, so it looks like next I made a little bit of a text box for myself. So I just grabbed my rectangle tool here, and I created one, it looks like right about here. So it was just kind of touching the B. And I made sure that I filled that with white. And I turned off the stroke on that. Then I clicked on that, held down Shift, selected my sign, and I center aligned it to the biggest object there. Maybe I want this to be a little bigger. Room for our text. There we go, I think that looks good. Okay, so now I used a different kind of text here. Decotech. So I typed what I wanted, selected it, and again, from the font menu, I chose the font that I wanted, and then I changed my font size till it kind of roughly matched the area. It needs to be just a tiny bit smaller. Once I had that, I clicked it, held down Shift, clicked my little text box, last selected, and I'm going to center that up in my text box. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that I have that, again, I'm going to do Path and Object to Path. And it looks like I had two little lines here as well. So I'm going to also do two little lines. So to do that, I'm going to take my rectangle tool and I'm just going to create a tiny rectangle. I'm going to change the color of it just so I can see it a little better. Center that up. Lower it so that it's touching. Duplicate, Command or Control D. Then lower it again. And there we go. So I gave myself a nice little decorative text box there. And it's going to say the words that I want it to say. So it's looking pretty good so far, right? Again, I'm going to make sure I choose that and choose Path, Object to Path, just because the Glowforge won't pick it up otherwise. Now, I had one more decorative item here, and that was this little border there that I wanted to etch. So how are we going to do that? Real simple. We're going to choose our rectangle tool. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of it. Looks like something has come a little amiss here. So I'm going to recenter that. Alright, now that I have that, I'm going to make another rectangle, and it's going to be this here. I'm going to change the color just so I can see it better. Move it in here. Hold down Shift to select both of these. Gonna go to my alignment tool. I'm gonna align to the biggest object. Just gonna center it up here. Now I'm gonna hold down Shift and select both of these. I'm gonna do Path and Difference, and it's gonna cut out that hole there. I'm just going to turn this into a different color, just so I can see it a little better. I'm gonna align it right where I want it. Now it's time to choose our colors. Now it's really important to think about not the color itself, but what you want the color to mean. So here I've chosen red for my cut line, and I have some other options. I have score and etch as options. Score just gives you an outline. Etch will etch the whole thing. So if I score this B, it's just going to give me the outline of a B. If I etch it, it's going to fill in the whole thing. The laser's going to burn the whole thing. So I want different options for text than for the other things. So I'm going to choose the different colors. It looks like I chose blue for the text, and green for things that I wanted to etch. Actually, I think for that one, I also wanted to etch it all in the same layer. So I made that the same as the text. So now I have these 3 different colors, and they're going to give me 3 different options in the Glowforge. I can choose settings for each one of these colors. So now I'm going to select all of that by dragging, and I'm going to choose Path and Object to Path. And I'm also going to choose Object and Group. So it's one object, and I'm going to do File and Save. Once you have it the way you want it, you can go ahead and delete everything that you don't need. So like I have an extra one here that I don't need, so I'm going to delete the extra one and then these. So again, I'm going to select everything, Path, Object to Path, File, Save. And now it is time for us to move into the Glowforge so we can choose our settings. So here at the Lane Community Technology Center, we use a Glowforge, and what we're going to do is we're going to log you into our account and let you use that to choose your settings. If you have a different laser cutter, this process will go differently for you, okay? But if you're doing it here, the first time we go ahead and help you, we walk you through it, we do like a one-on-one tutorial, and then after that you sign up for time on the machine and you do this part yourself. Although you may absolutely ask for help if you need it. So we would sign you in here. It's app.glowforge.com. Looks like this, then we sign you in. Everybody's dashboard is going to look a little different. You're going to choose upload here, and then you're going to choose yours. And there is an actual camera in here, so you can see this is the piece of acrylic that we're working on. It is Glowforge branded. I don't actually know why it can't read that, so we're going to do medium clear acrylic is what we're picking. Alright, and we're going to choose a place that looks good there. Okay, and now we're going to choose our settings. So, I know I want to engrave that part, right? Here's what happens if I score. It becomes an outline. That's what I was talking about before. But I want to engrave it. And then this part I also want to engrave, and I'm just going to do an SD graphic on both of these. Now this gives you settings. You can get very granular with your settings. You can adjust your speed and your power and your lines per inch and your number of passes, and all of that will determine how deep and how hot. So it's the speed and the power, how fast and how hot, which in turn will determine how deep it engraves, okay? Now, because we're using Glowforge material, proof grade material is what they call it, the settings are already going to be pretty good just straight out of the gate. So we were able to choose medium clear acrylic. If you're not using Glowforge braided material, you would instead use uncertified material and then put in the thickness of the material. And you probably have to play with your settings quite a bit more. I want to do just an SD graphic engrave here, and then I want to do a proof grade cut on this, and you can see the settings. Again, you have power over these settings. You can move them around if you want to, but I'm just going to stick with the standard, and it's going to turn out pretty good. I have noticed with my acrylic that there's a little bit of warping. It doesn't always go all the way through, so I usually do 2 passes on just that last cut there. The other thing we're going to do, we're going to hit this More button. We're going to choose Set Focus, and we're going to set our focus, just focus our camera roughly on the center of our design. You can see up here it's doing that. And I want you to be aware that when you buy a proof grade material, it's going to come with masking tape on both sides. You are going to have to peel that away manually, and that kind of protects the material from burning and melting in the case of acrylic. So you can see it's ready. Now we're going to hit print. And it's going to take its time calculating all the little precise movements that it needs to have the laser make in order to etch and cut your design. And when that's done, it'll tell you roughly how long it's going to take. And then you're going to go and actually hit the button on the Glowforge. And now it's time to assemble. So you're going to plug it in, put your electronics inside the base, and put your sign inside the base, and light it up. If you're located near Hamilton, Ohio, and you'd like to learn more about laser cutting, 3D printing, or programming microcontrollers, give us a call at 513-785-2727 or email us at techcenter@lanepl.org. For hours and location information, check out our website at lanepl.org.